coming up on Network Africa. President Bola Tinubu continues his state visit to the UK with a meeting with the Prime Minister Keir Starmer. CAF President Patrice Motsepe defends the body's decision to strip Senegal of the Nations Cup title. Plus, the Muslim holiday starts today, so busy roads and busy skies as Nigerians travel to celebrate with family and friends. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Amarachi Ubani. President Bola Tinubu is gradually winding down on his two-day state visit to the UK. Today, he had a meeting with the country's Prime Minister Keir Starmer at number 10 Downing Street. Mr. Starmer stood on a red carpet as he waited to welcome the Nigerian president. They both posed for pictures before going inside for talks. According to a statement from the president's special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, both signed several memoranda of understanding covering trade, investment, defense, and cultural partnerships. And one of the key highlights of the meeting today is the signing of a £746 million financing agreement involving UK Export Finance, the Nigerian Ports Authority, and the Federal Ministry of Finance. The deal will support the rehabilitation of two major maritime facilities, the Lagos Port Complex in Apapa Quays and the Tinkan Island Port Complex, as part of efforts to modernize Nigeria's transport and trade infrastructure. And just last night, President Tinubu and the First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, King Charles and Queen Camilla, alongside several Nigerian dignitaries, were treated to a delightful dinner in President Tinubu's honor at St. James's Palace in London. During the dinner, King Charles assured the president that the meal, which also had jollof rice on the menu, was the best, calling on everyone at the table to savor the lavish meals. King Charles also spoke about young Nigerians flourishing in different fields in the UK.
We in the United Kingdom are blessed that so many people of Nigerian heritage, having chosen Britain as their home, are now at the heart of British life through excelling at the highest levels of business, technology, academia, law, science, sport, literature and the arts. I have met so many of these quiet heroes in our schools, businesses, National Health Service and universities, including countless young people who have flourished through the work of my King's Trust over the last 50 years. Only last week, I was delighted to host a rather lively group of them for a jollof and tea party at St. James's Palace. I was firmly assured that the jollof was only the best, Nigerian of course.
King Charles III, the British monarch. Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have agreed to attempt to concrete steps to ease tensions between them amid stalled peace talks hosted by the United States. The promise to ease the tension comes out of the U.S. this month sanctioned the Rwandan Defense Forces and 4 senior officials and accused Rwanda of directly supporting the M23 rebel group, blaming it for escalating the conflict. A joint statement by the DR Congo, Rwanda and the U.S. says they have agreed to a series of coordinated steps to de-escalate tensions and advance progress on the ground. A statement by the two countries says they pledge to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, while Rwanda would designate its forces and lift defensive measures in defined areas in DR Congo's territory. The Madagascar government is working towards greater ties with Russia. President Andry Rajoelina traveled to Moscow in February, making the first official visit by a Malagasy leader in nearly 50 years. He has led what he calls a refoundation since taking power after weeks of youth-led unrest, which began as protests over power and water shortages. Rajoelina has framed this as a reset aimed at restoring state authority, fighting corruption, and rebuilding public trust. During his Russian visit, he highlighted the nation's ambition to engage with a diverse array of nations, including the BRICS alliance. Security cooperation with Moscow has already begun. It's supplying military equipment to the island nation and has sent a delegation to train armed forces in its use. Other targeted sectors include agriculture, with projects involving Russian fertilizers and seeds, as well as Madagascar's mineral resources. Rajoelina has said a military committee will rule alongside a transitional government with new elections to take place within 2 years. Let's switch over attention now to the controversy on the continent in the world of African football. CAF President Patrice Motsepe defended the body's decision to strip Senegal of its title in January. The Lions of Teranga's 1-0 victory over Morocco in the Rabat final in January was changed by its appeals board to a 3-0 default win for the host nation, Morocco. Motsepe said the different conclusions reached by CAF's internal bodies reflect the independence of its judicial process. He said CAF had appointed judges and legal experts from across its 54 member nations to ensure integrity and neutrality in decision, adding that countries retain the right to challenge outcomes, including the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Senegal has called for an independent international investigation into what it described as suspected corruption at CAF following this ruling. Motsepe says the African football body will adhere and respect any decision taken by the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Well, more reactions from Senegal. Residents still reeling from AFCON's decision. One respondent said they were a bit shaken up, calling on the government to intervene and protect the national team. He also said CAF does not want to sideline Morocco because if it does, Morocco might refuse to organize another competition. The General Secretary of the Senegalese Football Federation, Abdoulaye Seydi Sow, condemned the ruling as a blatant breach of trust. Senegal filed an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sports over the CAF decision. But a totally different outcome in Morocco. Football fans rejoicing on the streets of Rabat. There they are, celebrating CAF's decision to strip Senegal of the 2025 to 2026 Africa Cup of Nations and award it to Morocco, to the national team. They rallied in the streets and squares, waving the Moroccan flag, vehicles driving by and honking horns as they moved through cheery crowds. They said their joy is indescribable. I have joining me now sports correspondent Cecilia Omoregbe. I had to bring her in for this one. Cecilia, you were chuckling at some of the stories I was reading, the reactions, I believe, to CAF's decision to strip Morocco. So you have discussed this extensively in, sports news tonight and, your sports programs as well here on Channel Television. With some people in Senegal calling for the government to intervene. I know that, there's always a separation of sports and politics. What sort of precedent, however, does this set, for African football on the continent?
I think it's unprecedented, actually. It has never happened before. So sometimes you want to think back and feel, did this happen before? How did we handle it? That's never happened before. We've seen team actually walking off the pitch. They don't continue games. And of course, they'll be stripped of the result award to the opposition. But in this situation, the Senegalese team walked off the pitch and they came back. And the rules that we've been talking about all day, the Rule 82 and also Rule Book 84 of CAF, which they quoted, the 82 says if they walk off the pitch, and of course followed by 84, they go hand in hand, you have to strip them of the title, of the, they'll forfeit the match, and also 3 points will be awarded to the opposition. But if you read all through, there is no provision where it says if the team returns to the field of play. So that's
they never expect the team to return.
So they didn't. They were still within the vicinity of the stadium. They didn't leave the stadium. They were still around, and then they came back and they played the game. So everyone has been wondering, why would you now pick that particular loopholes to actually do this, because this is a landmark decision. If it was just an ordinary game, people will understand.
Right.
But this is the greatest tournament we have in Africa. I mean, it is equal. It's just like you have the European Championships. You know, you have the World Cup. Yeah, it's all over the world. But this is Africa. 54 nations. In this particular one, you have how many countries competed? You know, we've increased the numbers of countries competing, you know, to a larger number, 24. And now you're looking at the whole world were watching. In 2023, when Côte d'Ivoire hosted the Nations Cup, most pundits across the world were saying that it is one of the best we've ever done in terms of officiating, in terms of play, in terms of tactical display, everything that happened. And then Morocco hosted last year, and of course, you know, 2025, or no, extended to 2026, and everything is like what we build up, what we're supposed to have built on what happened in 2023 in Côte d'Ivoire, but we didn't do that. It's like they dropped the ball totally. And with this decision, which I mean, sometimes you're looking for a word to describe ludicrousness or something like that.
Yeah,
but
there were so many complaints about Morocco.
Yes.
You know, in this competition, particular competition. And I think maybe also the CAF rules were probably too ambiguous for them to apply, or the CAF rules, the ambiguity, I beg your pardon, of the CAF rules were probably, you know, provided enough opportunity for Morocco to do what it wanted to do. But I've been wondering what the reaction of other football federations on the continent have been. For example, Nigeria, which played Morocco, I think, just before the match between Morocco and Senegal. Yes, set the precedent for the Senegalese action on the field. It informed their decision to take the decision that they did, walking off and then coming back on the stage. What has the Nigerian Football Federation said, and other football federations on the continent?
Yeah, apart from Samuel Eto'o that actually said something about it, I haven't really, there's no official statement from any of them talking about this decision, because this is really dicey for all of them. I'm sure maybe they don't want to get sanctioned or something, but it's only Samuel Eto'o, the Cameroonian FA president, that have come up to say this decision is a sad one, that Senegal shouldn't return the trophy. So it's going to be with them. And then Senegal, of course, you read that they are going to CAF. They appeal to CAF for that decision. It may take 6 months. So until the final decision from the highest body in terms of football, nothing, in terms of sport, nothing is going to happen. So these might just drag for a very, very long time. Now, the World Cup is starting in June. I'm sure maybe decision may be made after the World Cup. But overall, I think what the appeal committee of CAF have actually done, it's something that is unprecedented. It's something that almost everyone across the world have actually condemned. Yes, you have your rules, but why will you look at the little loopholes there and use that as a benchmark to actually make your decision? You know, a tournament that we've all enjoyed, we've talked about, is 2 months after. I think that's where the grievance is, because at first the disciplinary committee made the decision and Senegal were asked to keep the trophy. But then Morocco appealed, and then the appeal decision was this. And people started putting 2 and 2 together, you know, that could it be this was the reason they didn't want to host the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, which was supposed to have started 17th of this month, and they had to shift it to July, August. So there are some situations, and you look at what is really going on between Morocco and, of course, CAF. The body language of Motsepe, I mean, if you listen to him talking on that video, he didn't like it. He's actually disappointed from his body language and everything. He didn't like it.
He's disappointed at the decision?
Yeah, at the decision. And not just that. What he said, he says, whatever, you know, he's happy that Senegal is going to appeal. Whatever decision CAF will take, they will stand by that. So I'm also happy that the Senegalese government and the Football Federation are working hand in hand to ensure that justice is actually done. And then African football, we can say that, yes, in Africa, we follow the rules. We want integrity. We want transparency, because this actually negates all the works that the likes of Sayatu have done over the years. And then you're looking at a situation whereby, I mean, a trophy is being stripped of a country that had won it. That's never happened before. Yeah, so we just hope and pray that just maybe something happened, but this does not look good. For African football at all.
It is the most contested title right now on the continent. It's not even the presidential elections happening on the continent. It is the title. Who holds the world? Who holds the CAF title, the AFCON title for 2026? So while they're arguing, I know the cup really cannot hang in the air. So where exactly is it?
It's in Dakar, in Senegal. They said they're not returning
Yeah,
it. It's
so
with them. So they're keeping it. I mean, some of the players were tweeting. I don't know if it's actually an official account. Say, come and get it. So
I guess we can read whatever meanings we want to into that. Cece, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. And I'm sure that there will be updates from this. You will be briefing us, of course. We'll bring you back when that happens.
Hopefully, it's good news.
We're off on a break now on Network Africa. When we return, how safe and convenient is travel this holiday? We'll take a look at what travelers are facing this season. Stay with us. Welcome back. Still watching Network Africa. The rising cost of fuel is beginning to be felt in Morocco due to the ongoing fighting in the Middle East that has led to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. In the streets of Rabat, Moroccan capital, nearby areas, residents reacted to the surge in fuel prices, saying they now have to pay more for gas, which has directly impacted the cost of goods and services in the North African country. Diesel and gasoline have each gone up by 0.25 dirhams per litre this week after some distributors began applying new rates, putting additional pressure on drivers and transport operators. In response, the Moroccan government has announced exceptional financial support for road transport professionals in both the goods and passenger sectors, saying it wants to cushion the blow of higher fuel costs. This targeted aid will go to operators such as bus companies, taxi drivers and freight haulers in an effort to limit the knock-on effects of fuel price hikes on the wider Moroccan market. Now, all of this comes as global energy markets are rattled by the widening conflict involving Iran, the United States and Israel, sending shockwaves through supply routes and prices. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says investors are showing renewed confidence in the country, viewing it as an emerging market with a strong reform track record and resilient institutions. The president was speaking in Cape Town. He noted the country's economy has reached a turning point, adding that continued reforms will be key to sustaining growth and attracting further investment. Take a listen.
We are now turning our attention to another crisis that we face. We've repositioned our energy architecture and repositioned it for the future. And in line with what happens in other countries, and those who come from other countries, as I've heard, either India, China, and so on, we looked at what you do and how you have done it, for instance, in your energy or electricity sector. And we saw how it works and how it has delivered the growth of your economies. And we said, if we do want our economy to grow, this is precisely what we also need to do. We need to restructure our energy sector. I spent a considerable amount of time with a section of workers. I see the president of COSATU is here. One of her affiliates came to me and said, President, we are against what is happening, the restructuring of AFCON. We believe that that is the wrong path. AFCON should not be restructured. It should not be unbundled. AFCON should be left as it is. And I had to take them through the challenges that we faced with load shedding, but more importantly, how AFCON became heavily debt burdened, and how in restructuring AFCON, we're solving not only that, but we're also increasing more investment in energy, but how we are modernizing, like almost exploding into our new century. And I said we were like in the Stone Age. Now we are getting into the century we are living in.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa. The Lagos State Police Command is strengthening security to ensure a hitch-free festivity and ultimately the safety of everyone in the state. Speaking exclusively with Channels Television, the Commissioner of Police, Olorundare Jimoh, explained that all officers and men, including plainclothes personnel, have been deployed to secure residents this festive season.
We have done Operation Order to ensure that we cover all places of worship with enough deployment of police personnel and police equipment to ensure that people celebrate in peace. We've started the preparation ahead of time to ensure that we conform to its directive in ensuring that we deploy massively to places of worship where the Muslim faith will be having prayers, places of celebration after prayer, for which they are going to draw in down to celebrate with their family and friends. And we are equally mindful of the fact that people will be coming across the country into Lagos and equally across the world into Lagos to celebrate the festivity with their families and friends. We draw this operation order on times. We have gone through it severally, and today we have met on it to practically put touch on ground to ensure that the divisional police officer and area commander conform with what the IGP have directed. Outside this is the fact that we are engaging in what we call the convoy patrol at the area command level. This has started from even before December last year, and we have carried it into this new year, into this festivity. These convoy patrols at the area command level within all the divisions within the area command to equally beef up security in those areas and give confidence and trust and assurance to the members of the public generality of the Muslim faith that be celebrating. So we want them to come out and celebrate and know that Lagos is safe.
Well, today and tomorrow are public holidays here in Nigeria. And if you're watching right now, you probably stayed home all day today. So where are people this holiday season? Motor parks in the Federal Capital Territory have been experiencing low patronage as residents prepared for the Eid holidays. So not much travel, though. But commercial drivers and passengers were lamenting the poor state of roads instead, as well as the increased cost of transportation, which may have affected passenger travel.
Jabi Motor Park in Abuja is experiencing unusually reduced traffic, with very few passengers traveling for the Eid al-Fitr holiday. Park officials are attributing the low traffic to the recent hike in fuel price, which they believe has impacted the cost of transportation.
The cost of the fuel, not alone, that is causing the decreasement of our population, the situation of the country in general. You know, everything everywhere is not affordable. That is why. The increment added to the previous difficulties. That is why you are seeing our people are not much in the park.
You know, say now, before the fuel was not increased, but now the fuel was increased. So that is why we add the money of passenger. Supposing that they already increased the money of fuel. That is the reason why. But now, when after Salah, then even the price we put it, we can reduce small inside because we don't know say that during that time around we didn't have a lot of passenger.
Commercial drivers and passengers are also not finding it easy, as they complain about the deplorable state of the roads and the high cost of transportation.
The transport for the money for car from Sokoto to Abuja, the money is too much. Only one person, they carry one person almost 30,000 naira. What do you call this price is too much.
Before, how much was it?
Before it's not 15,000. Yes. Now we don't add more, almost 50,000, 15,000.
I want to even urge the Minister of Works, Mr. David Umahi. We are begging him, pleading, because one thing I discovered in Nigeria is that, you know, Nigeria, you give somebody contract. You know, one thing that happened to us in Nigeria, when you give people contract, if you don't have supervision in anything you are doing in Nigeria, there will not be accountability. You understand? You give somebody road. That's why I like Minister of FCT, one of the best ministers in the whole world that FCT have ever gotten in Nigeria.
The Jabi Motor Park in Abuja is a hub for interstate travel in the nation's capital. It is usually a beehive of activities, especially during days preceding public holidays. However, the current economic realities may be impacting the activities at the park.
And before we go, here on Network Africa, here's a fun fact about the continent. Did you know that West Africa produces roughly 70% of the world's cocoa beans, making it the dominant global supplier? Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana are the largest contributors, producing over 60% of the global supply combined. Despite this, the region receives less than 5% of the $130 billion in the annual chocolate industry makes. And now you know. In other words, support local chocolates. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.